Good morning, Honorable. Good morning, Mr. Brown and the team.
Good morning, Chair.
Yes, I am on the road. I'm driving my constituency, so I do hope that the network really bears with me in this regard. Mr. Brown, do we have the quorum, the required quorum in terms of attendance? Can we deal with the attendance register and the agenda and the apologies?
Morning, Chairperson. I have 5 members on the platform. 6, Honorable Mgadi has just joined us. If iPhone can just identify themselves, I'm not sure who iPhone is, but I currently have... Is it Honorable Magagula?
Yes.
Thank you, Chairperson. We have yourself, we have Honorable Low, Honorable Magagula, Honorable Sharif, Honorable Jordan, Honorable Mkhize, and Honorable Mgadi. On the platform, we are able to go ahead. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, and welcome, honorable members, to our portfolio committee meeting this morning. As I had indicated,
recording in progress.
We're concluding the last portfolio committee meeting that we might need to call a short urgent meeting today, just so we are able to go through our report on the inquiry we conducted on statutory rape, and then adopt that report so that we're able to submit it in time. So I had requested the team to send you the reports. I hope members have received all the reports, the 2 reports. There is a report that really speaks about the participation of members in the inquiries that were undertaken in Gauteng and in East London. And then there is a report of the inquiry that we conducted in Parliament at the NCOP chambers with all the stakeholders that we had invited. So I'm going to now take hands. Let's start with the report of the participation of members in East London and Gauteng. Let's start with that one, Mr. Brown. Can we flight that report? Members, I am going to now allow members to engage, add, amend, or correct the report, the first report. Mr. Brown, are we able to flight the first report?
Just 1 second, Chairperson. Just give me a second.
Okay. But I take it that members have received the reports and you've went through the reports, especially members that participated in this 2 sessions. That's the first report, honorable members. The first report, it's reporting on the engagements that were undertaken or the inquiry that was conducted, led by the Portfolio Committee of Women, Youth, and Persons Living with Disability. And the engagements were in Gauteng and on the 31st of October, 2025. So for members that have attended this sessions, please take us through, because at the center, you are the ones who can amend this report. You're the ones who can correct these 2 reports, because I did not attend myself. Any issues on this first report?
Chair, I have no issues with the East London one.
That is Honorable Mkhize.
Yes.
Honorable Mkhize, okay. Honorable Ngobeni. Honorable Ngobeni, I see your hand is up.
Yes, Chair. Sorry, I was struggling with the hand thing. Thank you very much, and good morning to all of the colleagues. I do, have no problem really with the report, but I do want to suggest that we should have an executive summary, a one-page executive summary added to the report, and that must include, I think, things like key findings, systemic failure. I made notes here, and I don't know if maybe I can WhatsApp them. And we want to have the themes that are cross-cutting across all the provinces. Also stating things like immediate priority actions, and also
Honorable Ngobeni, are
yes,
you speaking about the first report, which
yes,
is the report of the engagements in Gauteng?
yes. I'm speaking about engagements in Gauteng because that's where I was.
Okay, noted.
So I don't know if you want to because I thought we were dealing with the reports simultaneously, but I think the reports are similar in a way, Chairperson. That's why I'm saying my suggestion would be that we have a one-page executive summary that alludes to the essence of the reports. I also think we should add a problem statement, something that can frame what the crisis is about ahead of the report, at the beginning of the report. I think for now, those are my additions, but I think it was well crafted. The report was well crafted, but I think what I can do also is just to send my notes to the team, because I did make quite copious notes, not just the notes that I wrote, but I summarized in a fashion that maybe can help with the ordering of the report so that it comes out quite strongly. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Ngobeni. So do send and do share those notes with the team. Honorable Sharif?
Thank you, Chair. I was with Honorable Ngobeni and Honorable Lowe for the 2 days that we were in Johannesburg. And I must say that Llewellyn put this report very well together. It captures exactly what took place in the meeting, and especially around the detailed presentations that were given to us by stakeholders. So, Chair, I don't have anything to change. And whenever you're ready, I will move to adopt. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, you can move to adopt with the additions that have been made. Are you moving for the adoption, Honorable Sharif?
Yes, Chair, I'm moving for the adoption with amendments. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Honorable Lowe?
No, thank you very much, Chair. Good morning, honourable members. I wanted to echo the same sentiment that there is a true reflection of the engagement, and I would also want to agree that it is well put and we can proceed with the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Lowe. Honorable Ngobeni, I see your hand is still up. Is it a legacy hand?
It's a legacy hand, Chair. I'll lower it.
Okay. So the report is adopted, Mr. Proud, with the amendments. So Honorable Ngobeni is going to forward some of her notes. Please just do a cross-check and try and finalize with those additions. Let's go to the next report, Mr. Proud. That's the East London one. Mr. Brown?
Chairperson, just give me 1 second. I'll put up the next report.
Okay. I see a hand. Okay. There is a hand on the platform. You are recognized. Mr. Brown, that's you? That's your hand?
No, Chair, thank you very much. I think that's an order. And I was wanting to come in just to explain on where the first report finds itself within the context of this inquiry, in that report was just our take on the engagements. Remember, that was a portfolio committee on women inquiry, which we joined them on Gauteng and Eastern Cape. And then, of course, with this report, Chair, this is our own engagements as a portfolio committee. And those two reports will find itself within the primary report, which will be done by the Portfolio Committee on Women and Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, as they are the main committee. I just thought I wanted to just bring that context in respect of exactly where the Gauteng report for us and this specific report finds itself, Chair. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Very correct. I thought that's why I had asked the question earlier. Mr. Brown is very correct, members. We should remember our role and the context of these reports, because the leading committee is the Committee on Women, Youth and Persons Living with Disability. So our reports are part and parcel of the comprehensive report that is going to be finalized by that portfolio committee. So, for example, the engagements in Johannesburg, in Gauteng, and in East London were led by that committee. So they will have a comprehensive report. This report is specifically your own observation and our own observation of members that attended the two inquiries. But there's going to be a comprehensive report that is drafted and finalized by that portfolio committee on women, youth, and women, youth, and persons living with disability. So the second report, which is the report that we're dealing after this report of East London, the one where we engaged in our own inquiry. I think that is a report that, for me, because we are submitting that one to that portfolio committee, that Mr. Brown consider the issues raised by Honorable Ngobeni, because now that is a comprehensive report of the inquiry now led by us, because this is an inquiry that was now led by us. So it is important that we actually include the issues that Honorable Ngobeni spoke about, especially the executive summary, the issues that cut. So let's look at that on the report on the inquiry that was led by us. But for now, members, can we go through the Eastern Cape report? I mean, the East London report. This is the East London report, Mr. Brown. Members that were in
Chairperson, this is our report of our engagements in the NCOP chamber.
So the first report was combined.
The first report that we have just adopted is the one for Gauteng and Eastern Cape. This report,
that's what I wanted to get. Yeah, that's what I wanted to get. I wanted to get clarity on that. Now I'm sorted, Mr. Brown. The clarity I sought was that the first report was of both the engagements in Gauteng and in East London in one report, and you've clarified that. So that report was combined and is adopted. So now this is our report. Is that fine? Is that correct? Accurate, Mr. Brown?
That is correct, Chairperson. Thank you.
Okay, it's fine. Please take us through our report. I don't know who's going to take us through our report, either Sis Posh or yourself. Not comprehensively though, because we did read the report. So mostly go to the problem statement and then go to what we are recommending. I want us to go through the recommendations thoroughly so that we are clear about what we're doing.
Thank you, Chair.
Let's start at the findings and the recommendations.
I will hand over to Sis Posh to just take us through the report. I'm not sure, Sis Posh, should I stop sharing and you share, or should I just go to the recommendations? Please advise.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable members of the Portfolio Committee, staff members, and all of one people who are logged in. Mr. Brown, I think I can share from my side. It's fine. Thank you. Honorable members, this is the draft report of the outcome of the stakeholder engagements that was conducted on the 11th of November, a week ago. Before I delve at large, members, I just want to also highlight, Honorable Chairperson, that the Portfolio Committee on Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities has already provided us with a template which takes into account the content of the report per se, so that when the various committees are submitting these reports, they come in as a consolidated report from the various committees, such that, honorable members, after this specific meeting, we immediately, when the report is adopted, have to submit this report to the Portfolio Committee on Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, following through the template that have also provided, which would make one consolidated report. I think I would like to make that as a remark before I go through. Thank you so much on that. And the report first page outlines the introduction and the background in terms of the purpose and the objective of the stakeholder engagement. The report also highlights the phases that the process has taken up to so far, from the time the motion was tabled at the House and the revision of the referral and the stakeholder engagement that has taken place from the Eastern Cape, the Gauteng, and now the Portfolio Committee on Basic Education. This page, honorable members, highlight the participants which were invited, that also came on board, and some were virtually online, which is SATU, Federation of South African Schools, National Organization, Professional Organization of Teachers, the NATU, the State Afrikaans Onderwys Unie, Legal Resources Center, the Equal Education Law Center, Congress of the South African Students, Equal Education Section 27, Center for Child Law, Representative Council of Learners, the SACE, Ministry of Department of Basic Education, Ministry and Department of Social Development, and Provincial Education Departments, which is the 9 departments. These are the stakeholders, honorable members, that were present during the stakeholder engagement processes. The Section 3, honorable members, highlights then the inputs that were made by the stakeholders, starting with SATU. SATU has touched on the policy and legislation aspects, and also has touched on the issues of the numbers per se from 2019, 2020, 21, and 22. And the numbers of cases reported from 2019 to 2022 alluded to a figure of 2,354. And the percentage of sexual misconduct.
Sorry. Apologies for that. So we do have the report. Members have the report. And we are taking it that members went through the report. What I wanted us to go thoroughly, is what we agree, because we have to collectively agree on what were the findings and what were the recommendations. That's where we have to collectively agree as a committee. But as per the information that is in the report, there are, for example, stakeholders, if members want to make any amendments and any corrections, they can make corrections. But I take it that they've went through the report. I don't want us to start it there, because then the meeting is going to be very long. And today is Constituency Day. I understand that members really want to go and do their constituency work. So let's go on the findings and the recommendations.
Thank you, Chair, for the clarification. I'm trying to go down the report to go straight into the recommendations.
But we should start, okay. And I think this is one of the things that Honorable Ngobeni was raising. We should start with the findings. We should be able to say, this is what we found to be the reality. And then we then go to recommendations so that the recommendations speak to the findings. I hope we get each other.
I think, Chairperson, I hear you at this specific moment. Maybe I can also kindly alert Chair to the aspect that as the process was unfolding, the report had taken into account the input from each stakeholder and also taken into account the key issues per stakeholder and recommendations. And at the end of the report, then consolidated the recommendations and the observations of the committee towards resolutions. I don't know whether I'm quite clear, Chair, on that one.
Continue with the recommendations. It's an amendment we can make the issue of findings.
Okay, Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Let me try to move then with the committee recommendations and resolutions. Honorable members, amongst the recommendations and the resolutions coming out of this process is that regarding the issue of legislation, there's a need for strengthened legal enforcement, whereby the government must institutionalize compliance, the monitoring, the mechanisms for mandatory reporting, including disciplinary and legal sanctions for dereliction of duty among the professionals. Another committee recommendations, honorable members, is a multi-sectoral data integration that is looking at the linking of database from the Department of Social Development, the South African Police Services, data from the Department of Basic Education, other departments, as well as civil society organizations. This process, honorable members, will then allow for real-time tracking of cases to minimize duplication and also to strengthen accountability from the department. Another aspect honorable members raised for recommendations is a socio-economic intervention. By this, honorable members, it means the policies addressing the issues of poverty, education, and gender equality are essential to analyze as they look into the issues of the socio-economic conditions underpinning the communities. The issue of sexual exploitation of children cannot be reduced without addressing these intergenerational poverty and dependence because they've been happening for a very long time. On the aspect of cultural transformation, the recommendation is community engagement that should target normative change and also leverage traditional and religious leaders as allies in redefining the acceptable sexual conduct. This also aligns, honorable members, with the Department of Social Development's emphasis on social change and behavior change programs for the communities. On the aspect of capacity building and training and funding, there's a need for increased investment in social worker training, the digital tools, and victim support infrastructure, which is vital. This training, honorable members, also alludes to the training of the educators themselves, the SGBs within the schools, and also the non-personnel working in schools. This requires not only national budget allocations, but also a stronger provincial accountability mechanisms. On the aspect of SACE needs to ensure that all teaching of students as they start at the initial teacher education and those who are graduated should receive necessary training and vetting and ensure SACE should ensure that the vetting is triangulated against the National Child Protection Register and the National Register for Sex Offenders. And also in collaborating with the DPE, SACE should ensure that it is adequately resourced and is staffed to strengthen the vetting capacity. as we have noted that most organizations that were giving inputs had highlighted the issue of vetting of educators not to be a once-off event, but on a regular basis, and that the money and the funding for vetting should not come from the educators, but should be paid by the department itself. That the department ensures that it addresses the issue of access to the relevant sexual offences registers to assist with the vetting processes and also to minimize delays. That the department ensures that systems are developed, systems are strengthened to expedite the processes for removing guilty offenders from the system. The system should have relevant statistics and a well-maintained database of convicted educators. Also, that says would consider re-vetting those who were vetted. They must also again be re-vetted for a period not longer, short, more than 5 years being considered. Honorable members, another recommendation was that the DBE should ensure that all employees within the basic education sector are vetted, national, provincial, at schools, and PEDs at large. And that also foreign educators in the education system are also vetted. DBE should strengthen oversight and monitoring of independent schools as well as private schools. This also ensures that I think I've touched on the payment of vetting of educators, which will be done by the DBE or PDs, that there should be evidence-based community prevention programs that challenge the harmful norms and educate young people about consent and healthy relationships, and that there is a system that looks at the monitoring incidences of statutory rape and highlight those incidents by disaggregating the data by age and the context so as to better inform what interventions and policy decisions need to take place. A decision being made regarding the department that will be responsible for coordinating of stakeholders and departments to successfully respond to the issue of statutory rape and lacking thereof, and also come up with a collective response. A consideration of a national task team to report directly to Parliament on a quarterly basis about the issue of statutory rape. That this task team per se should comprise of all relevant sister departments and stakeholders, which will be basic education, social development, the SAPS, justice, women, youth, and persons with disabilities as committees which were identified. That DBE and DSD should ensure challenges where there are shortages of social workers, that this matter is addressed, and a suggestion was that at least one social worker per school should be allocated as a recommendation. That the DBE should ensure the enforcement of mandatory reporting and ensure that teachers receive training and awareness on a regular basis with clear reporting lines and mechanisms for reporting statutory rape in schools. Another aspect which was recommended, honorable members, is the expansion of the Western Cape Safe Schools project or call center into a national system, whereby during the conversation, the inquiry, it was alluded that the Western Cape has established a call center for learners to report safety concerns. And the suggestion was that this model should be replicated as a working model to other provinces. A mandatory annual training for educators, that every educator must complete a 4-hour training, which is accredited annually. On the aspect of prosecution and public accountability, that the National Prosecuting Authority must prosecute cases where professionals demonstrated that basic education, social development, and Home Affairs must report statutory rape and related matters once they are aware that this has happened, so as to encourage that the victims report and that the parents also report. Honorable members, that the Basic Education Department, it is recommended that they should consider having one school psychologist as a bare minimum. and that the department commissions a revised study on the aspect of violence in school. There was a need to strengthen the school-based structure to address violence in schools, including the provisioning of training by the respective provincial departments. I would like to pause there for now, honorable members, for questions, and therefore we can look into how we can augment it further. I thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mbude. Mrs. Mbude, honorable members, I see hands on the platform. Honorable Mkize, Honorable Sharif, those are the two hands that I can see now on the platform. Additions, corrections.
Yeah.
Honorable Ngobeni, you're also on chat.
Greetings, Chair. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I've already forwarded my submission to Mr. Brown, just as a matter of consolidation, because I do hear some sound bites here and there on the very important points that we need to cover, but just to add certain points for them to maybe revise and consolidate certain points so that they are comprehensive in how they assert our view. Point one, Chair, I felt like we must highlight the massive gap created by PEPFAR funding withdrawal for GBV programs, which needs to be closed by the government. Perhaps we may not mention PEPFAR, but highlight that there was a huge gap in the NGO sector, defunding of organizations that deal with GBV. And these organizations, Chair, they were supporting schools, particularly all their programs. They were targeting from age 9 to age 24. And these programs are providing both the prevention programs under GBV, as well as the PVC, post-violence care services, and they were defunded. And heavily, our sector in South Africa, GBV sector, has been is still relying on donor funding, and unfortunately, the biggest funder was PEPFAR, who then withdrew and left a huge gap. And that's why in East London we had reports about a shortage of the social workers. It comes directly from PEPFAR funding withdrawal, and our government has only paid attention to funding withdrawal in facilities, but never paid sufficient attention in terms of funding withdrawal from the NGO sector, which has been really resuscitating and giving life boost to the health system in South Africa. If the recommendation could also speak to urgent need to fund the organizational loss funding, which we're dealing with GBV. Point two, recommendations to develop evidence-based community prevention program has to go to DST. It's my view, Chair, but not to go to DPE. We might be overburdening the DPE if we do that. So I think the department is well placed to do this task is DST. If we task DST to develop that evidence-based intervention to prevention of statutory rape or GBV in broader sense. 3, cases must be opened against the people who contravene Section 54(1)(a)(b) of Children's Act 38. I think the gap that we saw there, Chair, is that there's no action. Sometimes, Chair, we should be able to differentiate if the problem is behavioral, not literally a matter of policy. For instance, we have a law which makes reporting of terror rape mandatory, but the human beings are not following the law. So it's a behavioral problem. Therefore, the solution must deal with that behavioral aspect to say, how do we must open the cases for people who have heard about the sexual rape, but they decide not to report. Whether they're civilians or professionals, we have to deal with them. But I'm saying on that point, alternatively, not alternatively, this must be tracked and reported statistically, Chair. And alternatively, there should be measurable steps taken to deal with the impediments, things that prevent the professionals to report, as mandated by Section 51A and Section 54(1)(a) and B. There should be impediments that we know about, and we should do something about them. Similar to parents who decide to cooperate and take money, we should do something about it. What is it that makes them fail to report? Because if we don't deal with those social dynamics, we will not be able to address this issue, because it's a social issue, as I stated in the meeting. So if people are taking bribes because they're hungry, the government must be able to respond to that socially and be able to then put a stop to this thing happening. 3, parents and guidance improvement programs are also necessary for them to provide effective support to the victims. So we should also have those programs which deal with parents and the guidance, because sometimes they don't do right because they're disempowered by the social circumstances. 5, strengthening of SAPS and NPA responsiveness at the community level, Chair. We need to pay attention to that. SAPS is not responsive to a required level, similar to NPA. They're not as that responsive. And only responsiveness can make a reasonable change on the ground. Because if people know SAPS is active, they will stay away from doing crime. But if they know they can dodge SAPS and NPA, they'll continue to behave in a bad way. Last 2 points, Chair. Improve forensic services to effectively and timely gather the required evidence. There was report around the poor evidence that ends up making the perpetrators go free. So because there's poor collection of forensic evidence. Sometimes other cases are reported after 72 hours, and we know if the case is reported after 72 hours, it becomes difficult to get the required evidence, particularly forensic evidence. So that responsiveness on forensic gathering of evidence is very important. Last point, Chair, improved structured operational and reporting coordination of stakeholders dealing with GBV across government spheres. There was major contribution, Chair, which was major findings for us, that this problem needs coordinated effort. And the reason why we are not able to respond effectively is because of poor coordination. Therefore, they should be improved and structured operational reporting and coordination of stakeholders dealing with GBV across government spheres, which means from national, provincial, district, local, even to a VT level, so that coordination is able to report a plan jointly, they implement jointly and report jointly. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Sharif.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning to everybody again. Chair, thank you. This report also really good. We are very blessed in this committee to have officials who really put so much effort into the work that they do, and it's noticed and it's appreciated. Chair, the only inputs I want to make in terms of the recommendations, I think Honorable Mkhize touched on it a little bit. The issue around mandatory reporting is already in legislation. And I think in point number 1, in the first recommendation, I think we just need to quote the legislation to just give our recommendation a little bit more meat, and just quote the sexual offence bill. And I think it's section 24, but you can just double check where it speaks around mandatory reporting, to just input the piece of legislation there. And then secondly, Chair, around SACE. SACE told us that they had only started getting access to the registers this year, and therefore the 60,000 odd teachers that they've started to vet include student teachers. But I think we have to have a recommendation that clearly says that we have to have, for all of those teachers that have not been vetted, or for all of those teachers that haven't been vetted in a long time, they all have to be vetted. And I think we have to put that in our recommendations, because my jaw fell to the floor when we were told that there's something like 100,000 teachers that have not been vetted. And that is simply unacceptable. So we have to have a recommendation that speaks to vetting those who are already in employment in the basic education field, if I could use it that way. Thirdly, Chair, I want to agree with Honorable Mkhize around overburdening the National Department of Basic Education, although I do think it's important that we make sure we hold them accountable for the work that they should be doing. I would like to then add or amend a recommendation that speaks to the employers of teachers to also put the burden of vetting on them. So whether they are employed by an SUB or they are employed by the provinces, the employers have a responsibility to ensure that their employees are being vetted. So I would like to also add that on the thing. The last thing, Chair, is I think it's clear that there is a gap when it comes to vetting. And what perhaps, I think it was the last recommendation, if you can just go there, Sis Posh, where we speak about recommending to put together a report that is based on violence at schools. I think we can go one step further and say that we recommend to the quote unquote newly established council that looks at these things and advise the advisory council to look into this and give it to them as a job to do, since they are there to look at interventions. And sort of, instead of saying we're just giving it to the department, we say we're giving it specifically to a body so that we can hold that body accountable directly. But other than that, Chair, I'm really happy. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sharif. Honorable Ngobeni.
Thank you, Chairperson. I've already also sent my input to Mr. Brown. I just wanted to emphasize, maybe for the record, with voice on this one, that we really need a section, and I didn't see it come out strongly or expressly in the document that speaks to boys as victims in the recommendations. Or whether in the problem statement or in the recommendations, I have no problem where it goes. But I have already sent all of my enhancements to Mr. Brown to capture. So I think I'm covered because I did speak at the outset of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ngobeni. Honorable Law.
No, thank you very much, Chair. I think I want to put emphasis on the interdepartmental collaboration, Chair, so that we put to say they must implement formal agreements and they should establish regular interdepartmental meetings so they can continue to encourage and collaboration, because I think we need to put emphasis on that, and then so that we're able to look onto that. And then we should also put emphasis on the support of victims. We must be specific on the recommendations, because those are the things that could have put us fought back. And then we should enhance victim support services to ensure that victims of these must be specific counseling, legal aid, and trauma-informed care, so we can address those things. I thought I should put such, but I'll also share my input with Mr. Brown. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was a last hand on the platform. So to the team, we do need to insert a paragraph on findings, because our recommendations must speak to the findings, because when you conduct an inquiry, you are trying to ascertain the status quo, what is transpiring. So we can't move to recommendations before we say this is what we found. So, for example, all these recommendations speak to the findings, the gaps that we found, the gaps in coordination, in data linkage, in coordination of data. There is a gap in compliance with the law, the current law of reporting. What I do not get out of, and I'm not saying it is wrong, it's that even ourselves, we have not spoken to it, Honorable Mkhize. For example, I want to speak to some of these recommendations made by Honorable Mkhize. One of the issues, and that is our finding, that's why it's important that we must actually have findings. The findings are teachers, for example, in the context of basic education, because that's the angle where we're driving the inquiry from. The teachers are saying they are afraid sometimes to report because of stigma. Sometimes they are saying it is because of the parents saying, no, don't report the matter. Don't report the matter. So there are those issues, and we've not responded to them, and we're not making any recommendations on what makes the teachers not to comply with the law. Because if we don't respond to those aspects, we are not going to resolve it, because you're going to just charge teachers, because that's what we're recommending actually in the first paragraph, in the first sentence. We're recommending that there should be some consequence management for those who do not report. But then, is that not going to actually exacerbate the problem, where teachers actually look away, even so that they say, well, I don't know. They look away because they don't want to be charged. So we need to fine tune that, to bring the aspects of parents in this in that resolution of number 1, based on what were our findings. The second thing that I wanted to speak to, the issue of PEPFAR. For example, Honorable Mkhize, on that recommendation, I agree that we should, our recommendation should be that there should be some level of funding, or we must actually expand funding for statutory rape, and not say GBV in general, because this inquiry speaks to statutory rape, which is a part and parcel of GBV in general. But this inquiry is very specific to statutory rape. And if we understand the definition of statutory rape, it's children that are below the ages of 16. So in this regard, I do think that instead of now making recommendations on the entirety of the GBV problem, crisis, the pandemic that the government has already declared, there should be concerted efforts and concerted funding that goes into the issues of statutory rape. I agree with Honorable Ngobeni that in our recommendations, firstly, one of the findings is that we must be clear as the committee that one of the findings is that the scope of the inquiry was very limiting, and it is not in line with the definition of statutory rape, because this inquiry said inquiry into the statutory rape of young girls. And how the law and how statutory rape is defined, it's all children that are below the ages of 16. That includes the boy child. So as a result, one of our findings ought to be that the scope of the inquiry was limited. It was confined, and it creates a challenge in terms of the definition, the legal definition of statutory rape. And as a result, it also creates a challenge of leaving out the boy child. I think that we should also bring it in the recommendations. So I agree with Honorable Ngobeni on that one. The recommendation on the establishment of a task team, says Posh, I agree that there should be a joint committee task team. I think that's how we should, because there should be a joint committee task team. But for me, I think we should be specific on what that task team should do, because it is not going to be another ad hoc committee. It can be. So this task team, I think what we should recommend is that this task team should evaluate the legislation framework, because there were law organizations that came before us, and they did say that, of course, there's an issue of implementation and compliance to the current existing laws, but there are gaps in the current legislation. I remember one of them even said, when you want to understand exactly how do you deal with statutory rape, you've got to go to one piece of legislation, and that piece of legislation, it's not in the Criminal Act, it's in the Children's Act, and that. So we need to have the joint committee task team to evaluate, the current legislative framework, if it enables coordination. Because if there is legislative framework that enables coordination, and then that's when you can then enforce that coordination. because currently you can't enforce it. It has to be done out of goodwill. But there should be legislation that enforces the coordination of data, the linkages of data, the linkages of the coordination of reporting, and the coordination of actions that must be undertaken from a school level, from a parents level, from a SEPS level, from a social worker level. So there should be some coordination, and it should be enforced by legislation, by law. So I think that joint committee task team should actually evaluate its role. Should be evaluate legislative framework, because we couldn't do it now. We didn't have time. The time that was allocated to us was very little. So as a result, we couldn't even source legal opinions, and we couldn't even get our legal team from Parliament to come and brief us on this current legislation. So I think that team should be given at least 6 months just to look at or to evaluate the legislative framework, so that they're able to recommend to Parliament if there is a need for any legislation, review or amendments. So on the PEPFAR funding issue, for me, Honorable Mkhize, the South African government has already spoken about it, and I agree with you that we shouldn't be specific to say PEPFAR, because there is connotations to it. If the executive has already reported in Parliament, I was in that Parliament, when they were giving an outline of how much it will cost for South African government to take over that program. And they said it's not doable, it can't be done, it's not practical, we don't have that kind of money. And for me, the recommendations we make must be practical, so that they're able to actually impact on the experience, on the lived experience of a child that is at the risk of, or the potential risk of facing rape. So for me, the recommendation ought to be there ought to be some funding allocation. Some funding, there must be focus, and that focus must go along with funding allocation to statutory rape in South Africa. I think, lastly, we should say that Department of Justice or Department of Police in the legislative framework, there should be compulsory cases and investigation. Immediately, any other stakeholder finds out that any child that is below, especially the Department of Health, that is below the ages of 16 is pregnant, the SEPS must automatically open a case. So it shouldn't be up to a parent to come and open a case. The state must open a case because a crime has happened. And that should be in legislation. I mean, that is why we just learned that 10-year-olds, 14-year-olds gave birth. But there's no investigation, there's no case that is opened because nobody wants to open a case. And that is the anomaly, because a crime has been committed to a child. So automatically the state, as we've said, that the state can refuse when a victim comes and says, I want to withdraw a case of gender-based violence. The state can say, no, we're taking over the case. We are continuing with the prosecution. So the state ought to do the same in this instance. The state must open a case and they must investigate. The Department of Health and the Department of Justice and the Department of SEPS should consider compulsory DNA testing in this regard, because there is a case. A crime has been committed. So in the investigation and in our endeavor to find evidence, we should consider compulsory DNA testing. And I fully agree with the SGP, the vetting issue, that it should be the employer, it should be the responsibility of the employer, and the employer in this instance is PEDs. So PEDs are employers. The PEDs themselves even said to us, SGPs employ on their behalf, because the powers the SGP have are powers that have been delegated by the department to the school governing bodies. So as a result, the vetting of teachers, of all teachers, must be responsibility of DPE, because they are the PEDs, because they are the employers. So I think we should actually correct that, so that, because the national department is responsible for the staff that is at the national department offices. But if we speak about the staff in schools, the employer is the PEDs. So the PEDs must ensure that there is some vetting, and we want that report. I think on that one, we should be able to say every quarter, the department, the DPE, must coordinate the information on the vetting update, on the vetting process, and give us reports. That one we should be able to say it's an urgent issue, and every quarter, from 3 months from now, the department must report to us on the progress, so that they actually feel the pressure to conduct these vetting processes and conclude them. I thought I should just make those additions. But apart from those additions, honorable members, I think we ought to move for the adoption of this report with the additions, with the amendments. And those that still have written amendments, written submissions should do that. And we should give ourselves at least up until the end, I think up until 12 o'clock for members to submit. Because after 12 o'clock, the team would have made amendments, and we'll finalize the amendments, and we'll send the report, because we do need to send the report. I hope that is fine, Sis Posh. You can come back just to finalize, so that if you need any clarity on these submissions, or if you need to clarify some of these submissions, you can do that so that we can close. Mrs. Mbude? Mrs. Posh?
Can you hear me, Chair?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
My humble apology, I think I was muted. I was saying, Honorable Chairperson, we would like to appreciate Honorable Chairperson and members of the committee all the inputs that have been made. As members were speaking, I have taken note of the comments that were made, and also Mr. Brown has sent to me via WhatsApp some of the submissions made by the members. And I also appreciate the fact that there's a timeline by 12 o'clock for members to submit. If there's anything else also that maybe we need some clarification further, we will make a phone call, Chairperson, just to clarify beforehand, so that also our report is submitted timelessly to the Portfolio Committee on Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, because this report, they'll be tabling it by the 26th, which is in a day's time. But for now, Chairperson, if there's anything else from our side, is to really appreciate the inputs that have come through, and the work of the team as well at large. Thank you.
I thank you very much, Ms. Posh. Honorable members, this is where we will close. This is where we're going to close this item, unless if there is anything that members believe it's very urgent. If we don't add it, there will be problems. But please do submit all these written additions by 12 o'clock, because by today we need to have submitted this report. But thank you very much for your additions and for enhancing our report. Is there any other thing on the agenda, Mr. Brown? I know this was the only item on the agenda.
No, Chair, that was the only item on the agenda. Thank you, Chairperson.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Brown, and thank you very much to the members for your attendance.
Yes? My apologies, Chair. Are we adopting this report with the amendments?
We need to adopt the report. We don't have
a mover and a seconder.
Okay, we need to adopt the report. Members, we do need to adopt the report. Thank you for that reminder, Mr. Brown. Honorable Ngobeni?
I move with the adoptions, the necessary adoptions. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Ngobeni is proposing an adoption to this report. Any seconders?
Chair.
Honorable Law?
Honorable Law, I'm seconding. I couldn't find the reaction button. Thank you.
Okay, so the report is adopted with the amendments. So thank you very much, honorable members, for making time. I know it is your constituency day. I am also on the road, but thank you very much for making time. We are really pressed for time. So the meeting is adjourned.
Well done, Chair. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Kabazela.
Everybody.
Recording stopped.